I don't look anything funny. I start. So hello everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here with my colleagues today at this wonderful beach of Capo Milazzo. And we will be today showcasing to you how you can perform beach litter monitoring activities, but also how you could monitor, survey the seafloor, and even, apart from macro litter monitoring, how you could collect a sample of microplastics from beach sediment. Unfortunately, the weather has not been on our side yesterday and today, and therefore we had to film yesterday the seafloor macro litter monitoring. However, we have some luck and some micro litter monitoring activity. So with me I have the wonderful group of the University of Siena, ISPRA, and of the SDN group. Together with myself, I am Thomais Vlachogianni, and I work for a Federation of Environmental NGOs based in Athens. Our members are from all over the Mediterranean, and for quite a long time we have been working on beach macro litter monitoring. So the overall idea of today, and I will start with the beach litter survey, is to take a closer look at what kind of litter items are being found, in order then to try and understand the magnitude of the problem in terms of density, so whether this beach is in good environmental status, and then to understand what kind of measures should be put in place to tackle the problem effectively. So the starting point of this activity has to do with mapping the different features of the beach, and these are recorded in the beach litter identity sheet, which is at the hands of my colleague Martina. And basically the overall idea is to record the different features that have an effect on the types of items that can be found on the beach. So basically the features that are being recorded are the currents, the winds, the topography of the beach, what kind of pressures can be found behind, for example, touristic related facilities, whether there is any fishing related activities taking place, whether it's a recreational location, whether there is a river outlet close by. All this kind of information is necessary to be recorded in order then to be able to interpret our results correctly. So this is the first step. The second step is to place our sampling unit, the part of the beach that is going to be surveyed, on the beach. So this is done in a sort of a strategic but yet random way, in the sense that, as you can see here in Capo Milazzo, we have a very huge, very lengthy and very windy beach, and we have to understand where would be the suitable place to put our sampling unit. So basically the idea is to find the most representative part of the beach. So we try to avoid accumulation zones, we try to avoid areas that are kind of man-made and would somehow alter the results of our survey. So, and then randomly, by excluding these other areas, we choose one part of the beach. And this is what we have done here. So my colleagues are now actually placing the first pole, that is the start point of our sampling unit. And they are going to measure a 100-meter stretch along the strand line, along the water edge, in order to define the 100-meter stretch of beach that has been agreed at European level that this is the optimum length of the sampling unit. So this is our first step. The second step is to define also the end point of this stretch with the 100-meter measuring wheel, and then also to measure the width of the beach. So basically this will be the area that my colleagues will be working on, and this is our first step. The second step is, of course, to record the different GPS coordinates, because the idea is not to do a one-off survey, But rather, when we talk about monitoring, this is something that takes place in time. So it's a long-term measurement of the state of the environment, which means that this part of the beach, the sampling unit, will be revisited by the managers of the protected area and other experts to perform similar measurements throughout the year. And the optimum frequency of doing that is 4 times per year. And this is something that has again been agreed at pan-European level in order to ensure that the results are comparable and are reliable, and they provide a representative, let's say, snapshot of the state of the beach. So once the sampling unit has been defined and the coordinates have been recorded and all the special features have been mapped out, then the next step is to collect the litter items. And this is what my colleagues will be doing, but because we have a large area to cover, we will take a closer look at that later on. So while they are selecting these litter items, we will take a look at the other 2 major activities that I mentioned in the beginning of this broadcasting. So regarding surveying macrolitter on the seafloor, basically the whole idea is very, very similar. So instead of having a sampling unit placed on the coastline, the sampling unit is placed on the seafloor, and basically it is marked with the use of a measuring tape. Again, it's a 100-meter stretch that is placed by the divers on the sea bottom, but it also could, in order to facilitate the marking of the sampling unit, also some environmental friendly spray paints could be used. And then, once this 100-meter stretch has been defined, the divers are surveying a transect of width of, depending on the circumstances, this could be from 4 to 8 meters wide. These circumstances have to do with the turbidity of the water, which affects the visibility of the different litter items. So when the turbidity is very high, surveyed a transect of 100 meters by 4 meters. And basically, the divers were moving aside the 100-meter stretch by 2 meters. And they were basically the litter items on the seafloor, and they were recording them in special recording sheets that they had with them within the water. And fortunately and thankfully, they reported back that yesterday very few litter items were found on the seafloor. And really these are great news, because it means that the surveyed areas of Capo Milazzo were really in very good state, which is something that we cannot say about other parts of the Mediterranean. Like, for example, we have seen very alarming footage from Marseille showing the seafloor covered by litter items. So we're very, very happy that the litter items were very few, and the findings were very specific. Like, for example, they encountered a beach chair or a car part and some pieces of nets. So this was all that they found, and we're very, very happy about that things look to be in very good condition. And when it comes to the other the third part of the sampling of the beach sediment, because basically we all understand that this cannot be removed. These small bits and parts of litter items cannot be removed by the beach sediment. So basically, here my colleague Cristina Panti is sieving the beach sediment. I have to also say that unfortunately, in order to perform this activity in a more precise manner, we need to have sandy beaches, but here in Capo Milazzo we have small gravels. So basically the overall idea is to sieve out litter items that are smaller than 5 millimeters. And Christina can say a few more words about this activity. Christina?
Okay, so now we have identified the plot. This is now 30 for 30 centimeters, but can be also 1 meter, 1 square meter, where you have to collect a thinner layer of sand, in this case the little pebble. Then you have to weight the sand that you collect and sieving with a 5 millimeter sieve and 1 millimeter sieve in order to collect meso and microplastics. Once the sand is collected, then the samples will be carried on in the lab, and then the microplastic analyzed. We should say that we can monitor 9 plots over the 100 meters in different accumulation zones in order to be more representative as possible, and then also to understand the correlation between macro and microplastics in the transit that we are monitoring. So thank you, Tommy.
Thank you, Christina. So this is just a small flavor of what kind of things we do on the beach and what kind of measurements. And some of them are much more straightforward and much simple to perform, but also some others have a higher level of sophistication. So while my colleagues are still collecting the litter items from the beach, it seems that we have found quite a few items, and we will be having a closer look at them. I would like to briefly explain to you or showcase to you the story of how we came to these types of measurements. So basically, beach litter monitoring is a concept that started sort of bottom up. By saying that, what do I actually mean? I mean that this started back in the 70s and 80s by concerned citizens by the problem of marine plastic pollution, marine litter, and eventually marine plastic pollution, and by environmental NGOs that were performing cleanup campaigns and some kind of surveillance campaigns trying to draw attention to the issue. And slowly through the years, the topic has gained a lot of momentum, and nowadays, of course, the media are overwhelmed by reports on the magnitude of marine plastic pollution. And of course, the different experts tried to add a level of sophistication to the actual activity on the ground, in the sense that because it started bottom up, it needed a bit of fine-tuning in order to allow us to understand the magnitude of the problem with a greater preciseness and a greater reliability of the results, but also to provide results that are fit for purpose. And exactly for that, we have recently, at pan-European level, adopted one list in order to classify the litter items in a harmonized way, and this is the so-called joint list of litter categories for marine macro litter monitoring. It has been quite a process because we have coordinated at pan-European level with all European regional seas to arrive to that list, in order also to allow the comparison of the different results among and between the different European regional seas. And what is on this list? Basically, on this list, we have roughly more than 250 litter item categories. And these categories are very specific. They have to do with the most commonly found litter items in the different regional seas. And they are recorded in a great level of detail. You can take a look at the litter items. First of all, these litter items are clustered on the basis of the material that they are made. So they can be made by paper, they can be made by metal, they can be made by plastics, they can be made by glass. This is the first level of classification. And then the second level of classification, which is an innovation of this list, has to do with the primary use of the litter item that we observe on the coastal and marine environment. So for example, let's say that we have a fishing net. The use is related to the fisheries related activities. But other types of activities can be agriculture related activities, they can be tourism and recreational related activities, they can be hygienic related activities. So this allows us very easily and with a very rather quick manner to associate the different litter items with the source. So now let's have a closer look to what my colleagues have collected. Let's see what kind of finds we have here. And let's see. So, of course, we have the usual suspects, like a plastic bag. And these finds hopefully will become more and more rare finds in our coasts and seas, simply because all the European countries have applied the plastic bag levies and measures to reduce plastic bags, and also Mediterranean countries have done the same through the framework of the Barcelona Convention. But for example, other interesting finds are small plastic drinking bottles and also bigger water drinking bottles, and which are being recorded in two different categories. Oftentimes I get the question, why you have so many types of items on the list? It's very time consuming to record the litter items. For example, an explanation why we record the different size classes of the drinking bottle. First of all, the source of this drinking bottle, depending on the size, could be different. So for example, usually the bigger bottles are associated with restaurants where customers can sit down and then drinking water has been provided to them, while the smaller drinking bottles have to oftentimes do with beach bars where the customer just go and take their coffee and then they have a drinking bottle. This is water drinking bottle. This is one aspect of the topic. The other, why we record the dimensions, has to do with trying also to quantify the amounts of litter items, because we are recording types of items, but then when we classify them in different size classes, we can also get estimates on the quantities. This is one example. Another example, let's see what else they have found here. Of course, they have found metal cans from drinks and beverages. But another interesting item has to do with this plastic cup. This is a single-use plastics item, and this shows a lot about our throwaway culture. But fortunately, because of the single-use plastics directive, this will be soon changing, and actually I have been very happy to see that a lot of people nowadays go with their reusable cup to the coffee-to-go shops and take their cup of coffee. So this is another major item that has been frequently encountered, and we hope in the future to cease to exist, at least on the coastline. But another important item that I see that we found here is this polystyrene piece that most probably originates from fish boxes, and this demonstrates that in the area there is the pressure also of the fisheries, and I don't know if there is aquaculture, but the fisheries sector. And what else? Let's say, okay, we see other additional fisheries items like from recreational fishing, and also I see one light stick that again is associated with fishing related activities. But also another major item that for the Mediterranean is a huge massive problem is cigarette butts. And actually in some areas we have observed that 80% of the litter items found on the coastline are made of cigarette butts, which is really depressing. And in some areas there are best practices where they have actually banned smoking related activities on the coastline, in particular in protected areas. And this is something that we will be trying also within the Plastic Busters in the Zakynthos protected area, which is a hatching place for this wonderful Mediterranean flagship species, the Caretta caretta. So this is just an overview of the things that we find on the beach and the way we classify these findings in order then to come up with very targeted measures. And with that, I would like to thank you all for your attention, and I would like to thank my colleagues for this wonderful contribution to the session. So, one take-home message is for all of you out there to do more with less and to do anything in your power to break away from throwaway societies, and hope to see you soon in our future Plastic Busters activities. So stay tuned in our social media channels, and bye-bye from Capo Milazzo. Bye! Bye.